Thank you for that. Welcome, everybody. This is CyberBulls. So it's a show that we talk about Tesla and investing. It's the week after Investor Day. We want to hear what the investment firms think about. We have Ross Gerber from Gerber at Kawasaki joining us, and Gary Black might be able to call in. He's on his way to Milwaukee to watch Bruce Springsteen episode. So let's go.
Tesla is the most consequential company in the world.
I'm the bull on the EV business. I think the margins are going to explode.
Still the same company. Company is still executing.
The energy is bigger than the auto business.
I'm the young bull that talks a lot of smack.
All right, so we have the CyberBulls with us, and Ross Gerber just went for lunch. He's about to join in just a couple minutes. So in the meantime, let's just talk about Investors Day. What do you guys want to talk about? That was a lot of fun. What's your thinking about it? Let's start with you, Alexandra. What were you thinking? How'd you have fun?
I loved it. I've said it already on the day afterwards, but I really believe this was a fundamental presentation, and I encourage everybody to watch it again and again because so much more comes out of it when you watch it the second and the third time. I do believe it's actually also sinking in. I don't know whether you've seen Gary yesterday on was it yesterday or this morning on CNBC?
Yesterday.
No, it was yesterday, I think. Yeah, exactly. Much more positive than last week. So they seem to come to the conclusion that this is really fundamental. I loved what you did yesterday with Jeff. I watched that actually twice as well, where Jeff explained how this is so much more fundamental, coming up from production, coming up from floor plan planning and making sure that cost efficiency and supply is ensured. And there is Gary. There we go. And
okay,
then
let's sorry. Good.
No problem at all. So I do believe this was really important, very important for any long-term hold. And my question obviously is, does it also impress those that have more short-term vision? And do they trade? Do they get in and out? And I think that's why we had one of the reasons why we wanted to have this call today.
Great. So we just said earlier that Gary Black was not supposed to be able to join. He has no Wi-Fi. So we're going to include him right now to see if we can hear him. There you are. Gary, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm on a train going to see the boss. And if you have to ask who the boss is, you're too young.
Bruce Springsteen. Gotcha.
There we go.
Well, we want to hear from you. Thank you for calling in. Can you tell us what was your reaction to Investors Day? I know that we all saw your CNBC, and we're very happy with what you said. But what did you think?
I thought it was good from a standpoint of laying out a path. I had to cut costs by 50%. I think it wasn't as good as it could have been. I think it was a lost opportunity to get institutional people excited about the demand side of it. They had a chart that showed the different TAMs. It was the chart, it was like slide 8 or so, that had the different segments, and it totaled up 1.4, I guess it was billion. And then you had to divide, up to figure out like what each of the numbers stood for. So they could have used that to explain how they got to 20 million, but they didn't. And so I tried to ask a question, but nobody wanted to recognize because they were only letting sell-side people. So anyway, I thought it was a good 4-hour meeting, but I think they could have done more to talk about the demand side. Because look, anybody can say, well, if we cut price, we're going to sell all that we can make. That's true of any car company. It's true of just about any luxury goods manufacturer. So I thought it was a missed opportunity, but I thought the depth of the team, that was great. They showed that it's not just the Elon show. They were pretty confident Cybertruck would be coming out this year. And look, the challenge with a $25,000 vehicle is everybody's going to play in that segment. So hopefully they can get it out in the next 2 years. I know Mexico is going to supposedly start producing cars by next spring, let's call it, but everybody's going into that segment. So I just hope they can get out there first.
Anybody want to ask him a question?
Yeah, this is Jeff. Hi, Gary. I can comment on that. Just, one of the things I think we have to give Tesla credit for is when they enter a specific price tier, the value per dollar that they provide to the consumer is extremely high, and it shows. Basically, when they enter the $40,000 to $50,000 to $60,000 price tier, they essentially start vacuuming up all the volume, and that's why Model Y is turning into the number one selling car by revenue and soon to be the number one selling car by units. So I think the point of me saying that is I think we have to give Tesla, of any company, the benefit of the doubt is when they enter that $25,000 tier, the value per dollar that they're going to give consumers. What do I mean by that? I mean the range, the performance, the features, autopilot, everything that they're going to provide at the $25,000 and the brand is going to be better than others. And I think they're going to do exceedingly well. Then you just kind of refer to the price elasticity curve and you can kind of see where it's going to go.
And I agree with
You muted yourself.
So I agree with your point. Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. Yes.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you,
I
Gary.
mean, that's the analyst question is how much do you cannibalize Model 3 with what we'll call Model 2? And look, it was interesting. A year ago, this was one of my big investment theses that they would go into the mass segment, leverage their brand down to the 25,000. I used to call it an M2, and somebody told me don't call it an M2. I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was Omar, but I thought it was somebody close to Tesla. And then Elon put it on the back burner for a year. He said, look, we'd rather focus on a low-cost robo-taxi, which I always thought was kind of silly because, I'm sorry, I'm going to get the engineer talking. I always thought that was kind of a dumb because the robo-taxi wasn't ready to drive itself. And it was interesting to me is during the meeting, they didn't really emphasize robo-taxi. They talked about it for about 30 seconds, but most of the presentation is about how they're going to cut costs. And I agree with you. If you're bringing out a $25,000 car, it's going to have a lot more features, a lot more technology. It's going to be a better car than other $25,000 cars. What I don't know is how much they're going to cannibalize Model 3 by doing that. And that's why everybody was expecting a big unveil. We were not expecting a big unveil because when you have a big unveil, you Osborne Model 3. And so I thought it was good that they didn't unveil anything because that would have been bad for the stock.
Agreed.
But look, I thought the meeting was good. And I think people mistook what I said because I was trying to tell people why the stock was going to fall because I did think it was going to fall after the meeting. And it was going to fall anyway because it fell on the news. But I just didn't think they gave a lot of demand elements, meaning they talked a lot about cost. They talked a lot about manufacturing. They went through why costs could go down. But they didn't really talk about the dynamics between Model 2 and Model 3. And, why, it's a simple question. Why wouldn't most of the Model 2 volume come from Model 3? What you wanted to do is come from all competitors and let Model 3 stand on its own. And look, I think if you see a Model 2 that's like a hatchback and it's, 70% of the size of Model 3, it's possible that, there wouldn't be that much cannibalization, but I do think there will be.
Yeah, but I think he gave the answer today on that discussion panel, which was it's going to be a meaningfully smaller car. And for me and for many people, when the volume of the vehicle decreases that much, I think cannibalization becomes less of an issue. There's nothing that's kind of zero, but I think it becomes less of an issue. But it's a good point to consider for sure.
Look, and a year ago, we were all excited about what we would call the M2. And then when Elon kind of, put it to the back burner, we were very disappointed by that. And I remember all the Uber bulls were saying to me, just let Elon do what he's going to do. And I said, okay, that's fine. But, leveraging down to the mass is always a good strategy. And Mercedes has done it. All of the players is about 50% of the business. And what people got to understand is not just a compact car. It's going to be probably a baby CUV, a smaller CUV than what Model Y is. And it could be robotaxi, if and when they can get the thing to drive itself. But that I always thought it was a great idea. And then when they kind of shelved it for a while, I don't know why they shelved it because I guess Elon thought that they were going to be further along on robotaxi. Maybe that was the reason. And look, the good thing is they said we're not going to wait for robotaxi. We're going to go into the segment now. And when robotaxi comes, we'll add it to the platform, the next-gen platform. But interestingly, Gary, can I just say one more thing? Interestingly, the street has not changed their volume estimates since what it was last Wednesday. They're still looking for.
I think we lost him, and I think
You think we
one
lost him?
point, I think one point Gary is missing is the Model 2 was not done for a couple of reasons. One was battery constraints. There was no point at that moment to go into a new model that needed a lot of batteries. And the second one is it was at a moment where we had the pandemic, they had everything else to look after, and had to ramp both Austin and Berlin, which were Model Y lines. So I think that was just not the time. I don't think it was an issue. One thing I would have liked to ask Gary was his predictions now on the Cybertruck. Because if I recall it right, he was for this year at 50,000 and for next year at 200,000. And I would like to have that confirmation, but I think he's gone. Which is fair enough. Fair enough. It was nice enough that he tried to call in. No doubt about that one. So we're still waiting for Ross, right?
Yeah, Ross is. I'm watching his here. I'll add him to the stream. You guys can see it. Okay, we're all waiting for him to show up.
Oh, but the good thing is the Tesla bottle is back, because last time the Tesla bottle wasn't there anymore. Okay, so maybe that's a good sign. Yeah, the tequila bottle. That's really funny.
I like that view. Let's just leave it like that. No, just kidding.
Exactly. That's good. We just talk in the background, right?
Okay, we have Gary back.
Can you guys
good. Gary, can I ask you a question?
So
Yeah, we can. Can I ask you a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, you asked me about Cybertruck.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So we're using Cybertruck of 200,000 next year. We're assuming they start production of it in the third quarter, not fourth quarter. I know the street's at 90,000. So if you try to figure out what the difference in earnings is for 90,000 Cybertrucks versus 200,000, you assume $60,000 ASP. It may be higher. I assume a 25% gross margin. It's worth about 40 to 50 cents a share incremental versus where the street is. So, people always ask me why my numbers are $1.50 a share higher than the street for next year, 2024. And for this year, they're higher. But for 2024, which is what everybody's looking at now, because this year's kind of a goofy year, right? Because you got all this stuff going on. So people are starting to look at 24 and say, okay, what is their earnings power of Tesla in 2024? The street's at 565. I'm at 720. And the difference of $1.50, let's call it 50 cents is Cybertruck. 50 cents of it is just the difference of what I have for megapacks versus the street. And the other 50 cents is if they could get to 100,000 chargers in the U.S. instead of, I think they're at about 18,000 today, you say 10 cars a day, $10 per charge up, 365 days a year, that's worth about another 50 cents. So there's three things that even though Tesla's had a fabulous run this year, that could make it go higher and add about $1.50 in earnings for next year. The street is not incorporating any of those three things.
You explained that very eloquently yesterday on CNBC. I just want to give you a shout out for that one. That was really well done. And I think lots of people here in the community appreciate that.
So Gary, last time you had a big in front of Elon and Tesla, you asked the question about succession planning. And, you should have been happy because we saw 16 executives. We saw lots of time for Tom Zhu and Drew Baglino and Zach. What is your thoughts about that? Did you feel better? Oh, we lost them. Okay.
We
made it.
We got Ross.
You gained a Ross.
Gary, did you hear the question, Gary?
No, go ahead.
Okay, I was just asking you if you thought that the succession planning and the key man risk is a little bit better now that we saw a bunch of executives, especially Zach, Drew, and we lost them. Okay, let's go to you, Ross. Are you ready?
Go on back now.
Okay.
You guys can't keep running in front of the camera. Hey, yeah, my camera guy's like getting his marriage certificate or something today. I feel bad for him. He's young, he doesn't know. Oh yeah, Austin. That was fun.
Okay. Can I ask you some quick questions then, Ross, if you don't mind? So the big question everybody's asking is the board run. So from my understanding, what happened was you started to make moves to try to get voted into the board. You were able to start getting some backers to help you do that. Tesla came to you and said that, hey, if you decide to stand down and pull away your pitch for the board, we will give you 30 minutes of our time to listen to you. So did that meeting happen, and what's your thoughts?
No, that's not a correct assessment of what happened. No, I decided to run for the board because I am still very unhappy with the constant price cuts of very high-end vehicles versus spending a little time and effort, maybe trying to sell those vehicles. There's many ways to sell a vehicle, and one way is advertising. But I don't think it's a crazy thing to invest maybe $20 a car or $30 a car in advertising. Just try it. Maybe it doesn't work. Fine, stop. Secondly, succession planning. I mean, Elon runs Twitter, and we all know that. I think we can all accept that he's not going to stop running Twitter. And I think they did a wonderful job in Austin. By the time I was done, I think they did that event to make me happy in some ways, because I think they did such a wonderful job bringing out the people who are running Tesla, and especially having Tom come. And I think there was even an article about Tom in the Wall Street Journal, and really he impressed me. I had no idea, obviously I have no idea to assess, his abilities. And after seeing him speak and seeing basically his demeanor and his leadership, I felt very good about it, actually, because he's a very competent executive, and I think he can run the gigafactories quite well. That was probably one of my biggest concerns, because I was a big fan of Jerome Gillian, and when he left, I was really concerned because, he was kind of the master of trucks and such. And then, the third, although I still think that if anything happened to Elon, it would be devastating to Tesla. They certainly didn't prove that they would do as well without Elon, to be honest. But I felt like the team is super competent, and every one of the presentations I thought was incredibly interesting. I learned more in one day than I've learned in a long time about batteries, EVs, manufacturing. It changed my viewpoint on what Tesla really is, because Tesla is not a car company. It's an EV company, to get to being a battery company. But it's a manufacturing company in a lot of ways. And what they're doing in manufacturing has never been done before by far. And I think the other thing, I think they did a great job making me happy, as far as happy as I can be. One of the things that became very clear is that everybody in Tesla likes the ideas that I've brought up, but somebody's got to get Elon to do them, and nobody wants to get fired. So that's the reality. So I didn't see any reason to continue running for the board if the truth was it was just going to be me versus Elon. That was certainly not the goal, because I love Elon, respect him. I don't always love what he says and does, but he's the innovator of our time, and that's what he is. He's not perfect. But it wasn't my goal to have some conflict with Tesla or whatever. So what happened was I sent them a letter. It was about 2 weeks before the event. And I said, here are my issues. I'll come out to Austin. I'd love to meet with you guys. Here's what I want to address, and it could be a win-win. And that I said in the letter, I had no intention of continuing to run for the board if we could achieve, some of these things, or at least be considered, and then I heard nothing, so it was I didn't hear from them for 4 or 5 days. And then Martin called me, and we had a real good chat, but I had already decided that I wasn't going to run for the board before I had talked to Tesla. So I had put in my email that I was willing to do that if these things could be addressed. But I had actually decided anyways not to continue to run for the board for other reasons already. And then when I talked to Martin, and he was like, dude, we really want you to come out, and I'm really sorry about all these issues. And basically Martin is the nicest guy in the world. It's you can't even be mad at this guy. I don't even know how he does his job. And he was explaining to me some of the issues, and we had a really good talk. And the people at Tesla are great, and they work under enormous pressure. They work under, extremely difficult expectations. They're highly competent, and Elon is really tough to work for, like really hard. And so I really realized, like, I'm just trying to help here, and I don't want to cause any disruption. That's not the goal at all. And so, I went out there, and Martin was like, look, it's going to be crazy. There's so many people want to be here. So many people want to talk to us. So I can't guarantee we're going to get a lot of time to talk. And I was like, that's fine. I'll come out anyways, because, I want to see the factory actually. And, so I went out and saw the factory, and then, I got a good, maybe 5 minutes of real talk, because there was just like these swarms of people trying to talk to everybody. And then like the presentation went for 3 hours. Like I thought there would be time, and there just wasn't time. The things went way too long. And so I basically was like, look, I'll send you guys a presentation on, creating demand through proper advertising techniques. And basically it was like, we're happy to try to, talk Elon into this, but Elon fundamentally doesn't believe in advertising. So that's where we're at. Elon doesn't fundamentally believe in advertising. And I go, it's kind of ironic that he sells advertising on a social platform, but he doesn't believe in advertising. And I was like, imagine that pitch to advertisers, It's like, well, you should be advertising on Twitter. You should be spending $5 million a year on Twitter, Coca-Cola or whoever. And then they say, well, Elon, how much money do you spend on advertising in your 3 massive companies? And he'll say nothing. And they'll be like, why would I do that? So it's kind of ironic that the guy who sells advertising for a living doesn't believe in advertising. And that's where we're at. I'm very happy with Tesla, but I think Tesla has enormous challenges this year, just enormous challenges. And that's my concern.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Alexander.
Herbert. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. You ask your question, then Alexander.
Before I forget, then we'll go to Alexander. I just want to get in. I just have one, like a twofold question for Ross, and then we can move it. So Ross, I appreciate everything you've done for Tesla over the years. I just have a twofold question, and this is completely respectful. I just want to understand how you're thinking, and I appreciate your opening remarks. So I think it was yesterday or the day before, you're tweeting, and I get it. I've been critical of Tesla in the past when I feel they haven't maybe done something that I like as the owner of their company. So absolutely, you have the right to do that, and I think that's fair play. But it seemed like yesterday you kind of were getting a little picky there. You were talking about interior of the S. You were talking about Mercedes is FSD. Everyone's going to have it, and Mercedes is right there. And the whole point of owning Tesla, and I think you've been a big believer in FSD, and you've been a big believer in the advantage Tesla has. It looks like you were kind of minimizing the lead that Tesla has experienced over the years, and almost minimizing what they've achieved up to now, and hopefully in the next few years are ahead of everyone else, and they will get there first. And it seemed like your conviction was kind of, I wouldn't say down, but kind of almost trivializing kind of where Tesla is. So my twofold question is, have you changed your mind on how much of a lead Tesla has? And the twofold question is, going to your fund, I think you mentioned this. When do you, as your number one position, if you lose a little bit of faith in management, or possibly you don't believe in the story as much as you once did, and maybe the valuation has gone up a little higher, and you don't think maybe the company warrants it, I don't want to put words in your mouth. When do you maybe trim that position and say, hey, there's plenty of stocks in the universe. Right. I have maybe a high conviction in some other stuff. Maybe I drop it down a little bit because I feel as a fund manager, maybe this isn't the best moment in time for that. So I just would love to be curious, because when I have a stock, if I'm not happy with it, or if I'm not happy with something the management does, I either reduce my position or sell it completely. So I would just love to get your point of view on that.
Well, with full self-driving, I think my frustration lies, and I haven't used a competitor system, so I know where the competitors are, and they're obviously not close to Tesla at this point. But I also know what's being built and what the competitors are doing, and I don't discount their abilities, and especially in China. So I think that full self-driving was making a lot of progress until recently. And this is just my own personal experiences with full self-driving. And today Same thing. I had to disengage over some nonsensical thing the car was doing that it shouldn't have done. And it was at a stop sign, and there was like a UPS truck that was like a little too far over. And then it like didn't want to be that close to the UPS truck because it's set to be like super safe. But then it like wanted to pull me into the lane where the other car was coming. And I was like, this is, I had to disengage. And I'm sitting here going like we've got it, when is this going to really work? Now, once again, I drive in more complex situations, and I think full self-driving works really well in most simple situations. But in real cities and real countries, it's still a system that needs a lot of work. Okay. That's where I'm at with it. I worry that this is something that Elon should be focusing on a lot more than, let's say, the voice changes on a Spaces, And so this is my opinion. Some people might think Twitter is a fundamentally important thing more than Tesla, but I do not. I want to make this 100% clear. Twitter could be shut down tomorrow, and Tesla stock would go up by $50 billion, and he would make back the money just from that alone, and society would be better off. Okay? Tesla is fundamentally important to the world's survival. Okay? It's not a social media app. This is about dealing with climate change. I have been sitting in rain for months in California, sunny Southern California. Okay? I can't take it anymore. So I'm in a bad mood, sitting in the fucking rain, watching him tweet garbage versus working on my full self-driving. Okay? So that's where I'm at with that. Okay? You can disagree with me. That's fine. But I think social media is garbage. And I think Tesla is the most important and consequential company in the world. That's where I'm at with that. Okay. So does it annoy me? Yes. Okay. Very much so. What was the second question? Oh, why do I feel stuck?
So how do you think about it? No, yeah, but then how do you think about it?
Allocation in my fund.
Right,
okay?
right.
And what happened was Tesla went down to 100, and I had 7,100 shares, and I bought more shares, and I got up to about 8,000 shares as it moved back to 200. It was a good trade. It moved to 200, 210. My price target for right now is about 250 times $4 in earnings. This is not complex math. So if Tesla's trading substantially above 200, that's nice. So maybe I want to get my position back down, because I was at 10% now, back down to 8.5. So people in my firm too were like, "Oh, Ross, you sold some." I go, "We managed to allocation." So in my firm and for my clients and for the ETF, every position we own is to an allocation. So for me, Tesla right now is 8.5. That hasn't changed. It got to 10%, so I pulled some back. My opinion of Tesla has not changed. If you come to me as a brand new client, I will buy you Tesla in an 8.5% position if you're in all equities. Okay, that if you're not 80,
right.
So,
but just for a little back and forth, let me just follow up. So Tesla is the number one position in your ETF, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So if you believe right now it's worth about 200, what I'm trying to get at is, why would that be your number one position if you believe literally over the next 6, 12, 24 months, there's very little upside to it?
No, that's not
what I'm trying to get. Why would you not bring it down and maybe elevate something else if your conviction isn't there in short term or even in the medium term?
Most stocks are trading for what they're worth. I don't think the market is so vastly mispriced with so many securities. So I think most days, most stocks are trading for what they're worth. I don't think the market's that inefficient. I think we have a rising interest rate environment with a Fed that won't stop raising rates, and that compresses PEs. And so stocks like Tesla are more vulnerable to the Fed per se than stocks like Steel Dynamics, which have like a 10 PE, but fundamentally, I don't know if I agree with earnings estimates at $4. So Gary does this. I don't do this. Okay. I don't sit around counting cars and trying to figure out exactly what earnings are going to be and then be wrong every quarter. Okay. I look at what the other 26 guys do, and I know they're all going to be wrong. And I just don't know how much they're going to be wrong by. Okay. So right now, I don't think anybody knows what numbers are going to be for Q1, right? We don't know We know there's
Right.
cars for sure.
But I think you said five. I thought, look, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I think you said close to 500,000. I don't think we're getting anywhere near 430. So you're like 70 grand, 70,000 cars over. I don't see that at all.
No, because it's the 70,000 cars from last quarter they didn't sell.
Fair enough, but if you look at anybody that follows this stuff closely, no one's even over 450, and you're talking about 500.
Deliveries. I'm talking about deliveries, not production.
Yeah, I'm talking about deliveries too.
Well,
yeah. Production.
All their cars. I think they're going to sell all their cars. They keep lowering prices.
Yeah, but anyone in the stratosphere of anyone that covers this stuff is nowhere near 500,000 deliveries. I think the highest estimate might be 430. You're like 70,000 over the highest person that covers this day in, day out. I'm just saying there's a disconnect there. So either you know something we don't, either you know something we don't, or you're way off. Either one.
Every car on the road is now a Tesla in Santa Monica. Every single car. It's unbelievable. It makes like what Prius used to be. There's no more Priuses. They're all Teslas.
Oh, I agree.
But
California is one state in the country. I don't think it's penetrated that yet.
It's the biggest market for Teslas in the world. It's the biggest market for EVs in the world.
And, I agree with you.
But where I'm coming from is you can take the factory in Texas, which I'm not sure how many cars they're going to make. But let's say you say Fremont averages like 700,000 cars. And then you got China at 1 million cars, right? That's 1.7. And then like, why can't like Berlin and Austin make like a couple 100,000 cars this year, right? So you can get to 2 million cars. So then you extrapolate out backwards because they're not quite at that ramp level yet. And then you take the 70,000 cars they didn't sell last quarter and you add it to the 430 and you get 500.
No, the 70,000 are in the 430. But let me jump in here. I mean, the first,
if they do 430,000 cars, if they do this, and there's some sort of margin, I don't know what the margins are. I don't know what margins are anymore, and nobody does. So I don't know if any of these earnings estimates.
Right.
Who knows, right? And so maybe Tesla does $5 this year, which would be great news, and then there's upside in the stock. But I don't think that analysts get earnings right very often, and certainly with Tesla. And I think it's the hardest quarter to guess of any of them. And I think production's going pretty well in Austin from what I saw, with the biggest issue being the batteries being shipped from Nevada.
We have a number of questions to ask you. So go ahead, Alexandra. Go ahead and start this segment.
Thank you. So the first thing I want to say is, Ross, you always get me with the charm. Like, I was so annoyed prior to this thing, and then you come and you're there with all your fuzz and champagne and charm, and then I go, well, he's charming. There's no doubt about it. And you should be a good advocate for Tesla, because we need good advocates. We need people going on all those TV channels and all those YouTube channels and whatever, and be good ones. So let me start with that. Then the other thing is, I think you're actually contradicting yourself 5 times a day these days. I don't know what happened, and I wish well, yeah, maybe it was the COVID, but it sort of makes it difficult how to, take you then seriously, which I really want to do. 500,000 is undoable, and you can't just throw this number out, because people expect you to be the spokesperson for Tesla, and when they hear that, it just comes out as absolutely ridiculous. On the other side, these price cuts have been really well explained. What they're trying to do is move down to affordability. And actually, if you have the time, watch we do have a very good understanding of Tesla's margin. I agree with you, Larry. They explained it to us last week. They explained how they're bringing the costs down, and that the key metrics now is operating margin. So watch the Stephen Mark Ryan video from yesterday. He was very clever in explaining that people purchase Teslas at a higher price than they usually bought their previous cars, right? They would have been in the 30,000 segment. They can suddenly move up in the 40 or 45,000 segment. So by Tesla moving down the price curve now for the X and the S, people that usually were in lower price categories will consider Teslas, just because it as much as I do. They're just better cars. They are currently state of the art. There is nothing more compelling out there. So when I see you jumping around like, okay, the luxury segment is only going to be Polestar or Mercedes, which is true, by the way, for Mercedes. Let me state that I come from a little town very close to Sindelfingen in Germany. All the parents of my friends work there. Mercedes has given up on the medium segment. They will only go for the luxury segment because that's their only chance to survive. Okay. So that doesn't mean that they're a competitor to Tesla. Tesla will make 95% of their money in a lower segment than Mercedes. They will kill it. So I think one of the things you have to explain to us, if your price target is 200, we are at 200, and you consider that MGM and Microsoft and other stock in your portfolio has better performance, why do you still keep Tesla number one? That is one question I really have and bothers me.
So one of the things I realized being in Austin was that Tesla, I don't know how to say this, it looks a lot more like Toyota. Like this was the business model of Toyota. And this is not a bad thing to be an EV for the masses. Now, Toyota made hybrids for the masses. And there's no question Toyota has been the biggest loser because of Tesla. Okay. I mean, there's not even Priuses anymore. Like hybrids are dead and they like totally missed the boat. As a brand guy, so I'm a big believer in powers of brands, and there's this allure that Tesla has that's very valuable right now. Okay. And people will pay a premium to have a Tesla today. Why? Because the brand has this, I don't know, they call it goodwill in the books or whatever you want to call it. And as you move down market, what happens is the people up market don't want it anymore. Not because it isn't the best vehicle, not because of this or that. It's simply because if everybody drives a Tesla, and according to Elon, we all just want 10 models total for 20 million cars. Okay. That is not a car that you will necessarily be able to maintain that allure of the brand and margin that comes with it. The opposite being a company like Ferrari. So if you look at what Adam Jonas has, two big picks, Ferrari and Tesla.
Yeah.
Okay.
Completely different markets. Completely different markets. 13,000 Ferraris. Completely different markets. No. Let's move to another market. I mean, Ferrari is not comparable. Let's move to the smartphone market. How does your smartphone look like? I promise you it looks exactly like mine, even it may not be the same brand. We don't need more than 10 models of cars anymore. We're moving to something completely different, where transportation is going to be an equity like the smartphone, where you don't need anymore the little ridge differently, the little cup holder differently. This is done. No. You're in an old world.
No, I'm not in an old world. I'm in California, where your car is your personality. Your car represents who you are, what you believe, and the things that
That's
you
a
care about.
niche.
No. Ask Chinese people what a car means to them. Okay. A car is
ask people once they have the Cybertruck. Do you think that somebody has the Cybertruck wants another car after that?
Cybertruck. That's why we all want the Cybertruck. You just made my point. What a cool vehicle. What a cool way to express who you are. Now, people say, I hate the Cybertruck. It's the ugliest thing I've ever seen. Fine. I love the Cybertruck. And when I drive down the street with it, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing. I think that trying to compare a utility like a phone, so you want Tesla to be a utility company, basically. Okay.
No, I want them to have cars that I want them to have basic
Verizon or Toyota. That's not, I mean, that's fine. But I think they have this brand that has all this value that they can keep a margin in if they keep the high end cool. But if you just seed it lower and lower markets, what happens is a lot of people choose the Mercedes, even if it's not a better car, because the Mercedes is more their style. They like the interior. I like interiors of cars. I like
the Mercedes. The Mercedes are in the top 3%, and they will actually be in the top 2% soon. Okay. What we are addressing is the mass market with an attractive car. If you see today a Polestar, I mean, you probably do. If you see a Polestar in the street, if you see a Kia in the street, do you really recognize them? Do you think people recognize them as much as they recognize any Tesla? You do? Well, I don't.
Well, once again, as I said, in California, Teslas are everywhere. So Tesla is, I think I see more than Ford. You know, it's like they've succeeded here. So when you see a Polestar or a Rivian or a Lucid, I saw a Lucid today. I was like, oh, there's a Lucid. I never see those. You know, they have 5 of them. You know,
exactly.
Forget Lucid.
When
don't mention
they're not
Lucid.
in the garage.
They're about to die.
Yeah, they are gonna, well, they're not going to die because they're Saudi Arabia, and so
Yeah, but
you know, have you seen
their
the
financials.
the Saudi Arabians aren't that worried about losing money, clearly. But like, once again, I'm a brand guy. I look at it as they have an A+ brand. Why cheapen the brand? I'm all for the mass market. So at my firm, we serve like normal investors and we serve high net worth investors. We literally have 3 separate brands at my firm, and we do this very specifically. So there's the high end brand, then we have our mass brand, which is Gerber Kawasaki, and then we have our young person's brand, which we call Get Invested. Okay, and they're complete. If you go on our website, you click on them, they're like completely different pages, like looks, feels, and everything. And there's a very important reason for this, because we don't want to seed, because we actually, like Tesla, like to serve all these markets, but we don't want to seed the high end of the market. It's where
Wait. What are you telling me? You're telling me that a young person would buy a different Tesla than a 60 or 70-year-old person? That's just not true, especially here in California. If you look at the drivers in any of these Teslas, they come in any shape, in any color, in any age. There is no age differentiation for a Tesla driver.
I'm talking about people with money who want to buy a $110,000 car. Okay, most people don't spend $110,000 on a car. Okay, I would say
there is no 110,000 anymore. Now they're 89.
Well, I'm talking about a Plaid. I drive a Plaid. I drive the best Tesla there is. Okay, there's 110,000 or whatever they're charging for a Plaid right now. So if you want the fastest car in the world, you spend $110,000. That's quite a good deal, to be honest. Okay,
it's an enormous deal. The best car around.
Okay, it's the best car for certain things. Okay. One could argue a McLaren is a better car, but it costs twice as much. But it takes gas. It takes gas, so there you go. But, the idea is that everybody in the Palisades who has a lot of money drives some sort of Model S. And then what they have to do is they either wrap the car or they go to, Unplugged Performance and they spend another 50 grand to make it different. They do anything to try to make this car stand out because everybody has a Tesla. Okay. And see what happens.
How big is that segment? That segment is tiny. People that spend another 10, 20, 30,000 on personalizing their cars. That's not what Elon is talking about. Elon wants to make Tesla affordable. It doesn't want to.
But what happens is all these new EVs will come out on the high end and Tesla's just like giving that market away. And that's fine. I don't think that hurts Tesla per se, but it doesn't have to be that way. They could be much more competitive on the high end if they want to be. Okay.
Can we expand on that? I mean, if you look at the high end, you look at Lucid, you look at the Mercedes, I think the $89,000 base S or X, value per dollar in terms of range, in terms of performance, are better than those cars, and the Tesla costs slightly less. So can you expand on that a bit, Ross?
Yeah, but I looked at the new Mercedes the other day and it's sweet. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't even like Mercedes, to be honest. It's sweet. It's like, I'm not going to lie, but what I'm thinking is not where we are today. Where I'm thinking is, let's say over the next year. So over the next year, lots of new cars are going to come out and everybody's working on this. This was Tesla's goal. Like there was this great video I posted from, what's his name? Marquise Brownlee, I think his name is. And he's a YouTuber who does these great videos and he drives a Rivian, by the way, and he took his Rivian to the new Tesla charger, and everybody in the Rivian community is just so freaking happy that they can use a Tesla charger. And in fact,
wait. They can now use a couple of dozen chargers, and I mean this will be built out. I think this is actually politically, but I mean you were crying for a long time that Tesla should be politically closer to the current administration to get things done. Now they are.
No,
now they're opening some of the chargers.
It's nothing to do with politics. It's called getting paid. They're getting paid by the government if they open up these things. He went to Biden and Biden said, we will pay you billions of dollars to open up the charging network and you can build lots more chargers, but you're going to have to open up the charging network. And this is just a test. And Tesla owners, I'm sure will all be fine. I did a survey. Most Tesla owners don't care that it's opened up. And I think it's the best thing for EVs in the environment that you could ask for.
Exactly.
I like Tesla as a charging company, actually. But
I think it's a great thing. Yeah.
Their competitors a lot. It helps
But
them.
Ross, I just heard you say something. I had a flashback, and I hate to do this, but I got to. You just said, everyone's coming. I know you're a big fan of Polestar, Mercedes. That's what the Bears were saying a few years ago. Audi's coming with e-tron. They're not selling any of them 5 years later. This one's coming with that. The Taycan. You're using the same argument the Bears did, like Chanos. Nobody's coming. Mercedes, they're all concept cars. They're all these things I see. They won't even look like that. They can't scale them. They don't make them. How could I even buy them? Nobody wants them. They cost $150,000. And the specs on them don't even compare to, like you said, the best car you drive, a Model S, an X. Exactly. I'd rather take a 3 or a Y. They're dead, Ross. You're using the argument that was used a few years ago. No one's coming. No one's coming.
See, that's where it gets dangerous when you start thinking like that, because there's a lot of people who are now in an existential threat to their survival, like Toyota. Okay. If Toyota does not adapt, they will die. If Mercedes does not adapt, they will die. Nobody's confused anymore. Okay.
But name one Toyota EV in the market that I can't even name one. Do they sell any EVs?
They just came out with a BX3.
Okay, they sell 50 EVs a year. That's not competition.
Hyundai
in China
selling like crazy. Okay. And they're making them. And to just assume that, see, one of the biggest reasons they couldn't do it was because of batteries. Okay. And batteries are now being mass produced by CATL, and they're being sold at a discount right now to all these companies. And I can tell you that if you think that all these major OEMs are just going to roll over and die, and there's going to be like one EV company in the whole world, I think that that's narrow-minded. Now, what I do think, which I think could be the biggest game changer in Tesla's future, is if they can scale 4680 successfully. They need to get this to work. This creates a bigger moat for them. Okay. It's a battery company. It's a cell company. And if this technology can work, it creates a bigger moat for them. But if they're going to keep using 2170 cells like they're using now, everybody's starting to do this. And over time, there will be good competitors. There will
no, Ross. If you are saying that the $200 valuation today is correct, you're actually estimating that they're going to sell 5 million cars in 2030. That's what I mean. I know you don't do the math, but that's what it means.
They're selling 2030.
Yeah, but that's what it corresponds to, and that's how the market does it.
It's not the way.
But I mean, 5 million would be 5% of the market. That would mean you're saying 95% of the market of the other people get there. Look at GM; they're getting nowhere. Look at Ford, burning up. Right? It's absolutely crazy. Look at Volkswagen. Nobody wants their cars because the software.
People still buy ICE cars. It's not like.
I understand they still buy ICE cars, but they won't anymore in 6 years. I can tell you that. That's going to be over. Because they will have all these subsidies, they will have all the subsidies to buy EVs, and they will understand. And if Tesla comes down with the price,
there's not enough.
What will they buy?
There's not enough capacity to build enough cars. 80 million. We sell 80 million cars in the world every year. Every year,
well, we do. At the moment, we do. Yes, exactly. And that brings me actually to a question I have for you.
For a long time into the future, and Elon has said this himself. Okay, it's going to take 20 years to replace the ICE fleet. Elon said this, not me. Okay.
Well, replacing the fleet is something else. That means the ICE are really retired. We're talking about new purchases.
But Tesla
now, the question I have
cars at the best, and there's 80 million sold every year. So that means 60 million other cars have to be made by other players. That would mean there would be some competitors at some point, don't you think?
There will be some competitors. I actually think they'll have a 20% market share. And that means that today, for me, the stock is worth $650. Exactly. Yeah, but I mean that is it. But let's get back to my question. The question:
out of every 5 cars sold in the world is going to be a Tesla. That would be an amazing outcome for them. And it's never.
But that is my, and I think that's where we're going to go, because there's just nothing else compelling there. But let me ask my question. So they presented the new Gigafactory in Mexico. Where do you think they have other countries or whatever cities where they can produce at the prices like Mexico or like Shanghai, where they have the capacity to do that, where they find the engineers to do that? Where do you think that will be? Will it be back in the USA? Will it be somewhere else?
So I think this is where it gets more challenging for Tesla. Mexico is actually a great place to make cars, and they've been making cars in Mexico for quite some time. So it actually makes a lot of sense. And because of the way the laws work, importing, exporting through Mexico, it's really advantageous. So that makes a lot of sense to me. I think about other countries and the politics, like in India, of building manufacturing facilities, and it's so hard. Like, it's so hard to deal with these countries. Indonesia is another place where it makes sense. You have commodities, you have a huge workforce, and a big market to sell to. So Southeast Asia makes a lot of sense. I'd love to see one in Brazil. Brazil, if you go in Sao Paulo and you get on a road, like, you'll never see more cars ever, even for LA traffic. Like, Sao Paulo traffic is like, makes LA traffic look fun, and like the pollution in Brazil from all these old cars basically is horrible. So it'd be great, to have some sort of facility down there. And the government's hard there too, in some ways, but not as bad as maybe India. India's probably the worst. So I see a few obvious places they could put gigafactories successfully, but I think the real challenge, now that I walk through the gigafactory again, is it's a highly skilled type of labor. It's not a bunch of guys just like, I'm putting together a car and here's the hammer. And, these are like the most incredible manufacturing facilities I've ever seen. And so the labor part is hard. And that's why he's working on robots, I think. It's like the labor part's really hard. So I think that's the challenge that Tesla will face in finding new locations, is finding labor that's good at doing this. And so Mexico was an obvious choice because they already do it a lot. And I think it'll be challenging for them. And that's another challenge they face.
And do you think they will expand in China? Do you think they will expand in China?
I think that would be the smartest thing. So, like, China is a really good place to manufacture lots of things, and they're really good at making stuff. And we've had a lot of success in Shanghai, but the politics are real bad right now. Like with Xi, like it's really just Xi, I think. But like, so it's a big risk for Tesla to build a lot more in Shanghai, because if things go south, like, that would be devastating to Tesla, And I
agree with that. You have to diversify, but I want to belabor something with you, Ross. So the high end, you said they're going to see the high end in the United States. What is the #1 and #2 EV high end sold?
Probably Tesla. I mean, right? There's
the S and the X, right? Yeah. We're just exporting them to Europe. So they're killing the Taycan, they're killing the e-tron. Where's this high end coming from? Some concept car that's coming out in 2026? I think we got the story wrong. I think you're looking at it from a point of view as Tesla against the competition. Tesla's in their own league. That's why they're valued at 600 billion market cap. I think the competition is Tesla with itself. Can they keep up the growth? Can they keep up what they're doing? Can they bring the energy in to support the valuation to grow? Can they get the battery supply? I don't think it's them versus Polestar. I don't think it's them versus Rivian. Rivian is like, there was a great tweet. The amount of cash they're burning per car compared to where Tesla was in that kind of framework is night and day. Yeah. Well, they're not even close. So what I think, and with respect, Ross, I respect you, but what I'm saying is, I think you're looking at it wrong. You're looking at it from a perspective, oh my God, the Mach-E is going to eat share, rather than, no, Tesla's won the EV game. These people are still selling ICE cars. So if you believe, and I know you're a big climate change guy, if you believe EVs are the future, that's why you have Tesla as your #1 position. They own the EV market, and it's just a matter of scaling that. And they're the only one that wants to scale it. Nobody else wants to scale it but Tesla. So to pick around with these little things, and Mercedes got a car. Mercedes got no car. No, who's buying a Mercedes EV? If I want a high-end EV, I'm thinking S, X. If I want a Taycan because they are cool looking, I'm not thinking Mercedes. I'm not thinking e-tron. So I don't want to belabor the point, but you're go to that question. Well, the question is, don't you think Tesla's in more competition with themselves rather than some old ICE manufacturer that's going to try to sell some EVs in 2026?
First of all, I think you don't want to discount the Chinese. Okay.
I agree with you there.
I've seen
The Chinese is, yeah.
really cool
But that's not the high-end market.
Right. They're not the high-end market, though.
cars too. And I've seen some really cool EVs in China that work. Okay. I've seen some really cool EVs. You know, remember, I don't just hang around the Tesla yard. I hang around all the EV yards, and I listen to lots of consumers. Okay. And a lot of Tesla customers love Tesla. That's true. But a lot of Tesla customers hate the experience. Okay. There's bad experiences dealing with Tesla riddled all over the internet. So just ask a few Tesla owners about service, which was one of my big issues. Did you notice that nobody in the presentation said, I'm in charge of the customer service experience at Tesla? I'm a touchy-feely, happy person. So when your car gets fucked up, I'm here for you to have a great experience. Are you happy with Steve, who helped you at the Apple store? And they send me this thing, and I said, Steve was great. There's no system at Tesla for accountability on service. And what happens,
Ross, this isn't true.
Use other stuff.
Ross, can I interject here? I had a Model 3. I'm sitting in a Model Y, and I went to. I'm a frugal guy. The car that I owned prior to this vehicle was a 1989 Ford Probe GL, and I just bought my wife a model
compared to a Ford.
Well, hold on. But I bought my wife a Model X. Why did I do this? I bought it because it is the safest vehicle on the planet, and that's what I want my wife and children in.
Well, I got my wife.
It's 100,000. Yeah, but here's my point: is that you're talking about service. The suspension was a little crickety. She made an appointment. They made sure that she got into a Model S loaner while they tightened it up. The next day, she dropped it off and picked up the Model X. Any issues that she has are addressed immediately. She's treated with respect. My Model Y was same thing. I had an issue. If I have an issue, it's being taken care of. So, like, these incidents will happen. But is that the main? Is that?
You want my wife to get on the show and tell you about her experiences? Because
that's the point. So there's going to be.
Okay, she used to own a Volvo, and I made her get rid of the Volvo. And Volvo does not have problems. Okay. And she loves her Model Y, but if she has to service it, boy, she will not say nice things. Now,
sure, but this is like growing pains. Isn't that fair to say?
Yeah.
As they grow,
it's fine for today because people are fine. But when you invest, you're thinking about 5 years in the future. See, if you buy a stock, it's not about where Tesla is today and the fact that there's no competition. If I want to buy a Rivian, I can't get a Rivian. Okay, that's fine. We all know where we're at. What I'm thinking about is markets are discounting the future. Okay, and so in 5 years, we all know there will be competitors to Tesla. I don't know how good or bad they'll be. I don't discount the billions and billions and billions of dollars that companies are now throwing into it now that they realize how far behind, and now the EV revolution is taking over. We've won. This is great. They open up the charging network. We've advanced sustainable transportation and energy. This was exactly the goal of Tesla. And there's so much opportunity, guys. I'm not saying this in a negative way. There's going to be lots of successful companies over the next decade in the EV and battery business. There will be. And the question is who? Now, BYD, for example. BYD is a wildly good company. Okay. And boy, to count them out is a mistake. Now, we're seeing the competition in China, and it's severe now for Tesla. So if you just extrapolate what's happening out in China and just assume that's never going to happen in the rest of the world, I think that's a mistake. Now, the good news, as I said, is Tesla has the ability to make their moat deeper through their technology. Okay? Full self-driving and 4680. Okay? This is a huge opportunity for them. It is fundamentally, crucially important that they solve these things this year. And boy, I'll have a party, and I'll agree with you 100%. Their moat just got bigger. Whew, pressure off. We made 4680, and now we've got this amazing moat. But until this works, I'm nervous.
Ross, but if their cost of manufacturing is going 50% lower, and doesn't that imply that your margins can sustain or perhaps even increase, especially if there's government support to drive this movement? So why are we discussing high-end vehicles when we're talking about scale and it's exponential in nature?
Well, the high-end business is still like, I think it's like 10% of their sales. It's not minimal. It's a big part of their margins. The margins are bigger on high-end cars than low-end cars. Like, that's why you make them. And so,
well, that's exactly the point on BYD. BYD doesn't have any margins, and Volkswagen currently doesn't have, and GM doesn't win a penny on their EVs, and Ford doesn't.
And BYD makes
batteries. Yeah, 4% profitable.
No,
and
but
that is
they're ramping. It's like,
well, that's exactly my point. They're actually increasing prices when Tesla is coming down. Watch when they meet.
Can I make a few comments on this, if you don't mind?
Yes.
Yeah, can I make a few comments? One, just 20 seconds on the service thing. I ran quality and service at Fortune 100 and 500 companies. This whole thing of like, I go out to the web and this one person said this or these 5 people said that, that is a difficult way to assess the quality and level of service a company gives. There's going to be, extremes of great service and poor service, and people are going to experience that. What companies do is they send out the surveys. I get surveys when I bring my Teslas in for service. I get them every single time and I return them. The other thing is they go out to the websites and they scrape sentiment and they send out promoter score surveys and get that information. So Tesla may actually have the best service experience for all we know. We don't have any aggregate data to look at and to understand that. And the final thing
at my company, we have 20 Teslas. At my client base, we probably have hundreds of Tesla owners. And every time they think I work at customer service for some reason. And so they call me or email me. Okay. So I get calls and emails every day about people complaining. And I say, I don't work at Tesla. Okay. I'm sorry. I've had my 80-year-old relative wants to buy a Tesla and he has this bad experience trying to buy a Tesla. And he's like, Ross, I really want to buy a Tesla, but this sucks. I literally had to email Martin. I go, it's my cousin. It's like, he's old. He wants a Tesla. Can you just help him get a damn Tesla? Like,
yeah, and there's no doubt. There's no doubt. I'm sorry to cut you off,
Ross. Denial. I'm not saying these things because, see, like, if we can't be critical of a company, it will never get better. It will never get better.
You can't be critical. I was just actually approaching. I was actually going through like,
tell us all the mistakes we make, and we try to get better. Okay, at least my wife does, and
I think you can. I think you can bring up
all my partners here at my firm every day. Tell me all the things I do wrong and how I could be better, and I listen to them. And I try to be better.
Saying that in terms of aggregate feedback, I think there's other methods, and there's data that we just don't have. It's not denying that there's issues out there. There's issues with every company that produces any product that's sold to consumers. I'm just saying there's a different way to kind of understand and assess that feedback. And I think Tesla, with their next platforms, they're actually focused on avoiding those types of issues through simplification of actually, why do you have a service experience at all? But I wanted to go back and hit a couple other things. We talked about BYD.
One of the issues has to do with how fast they've grown more than idea of it. And so like, that's part of the pressure on the system, is simply the growth is so fast that they haven't been able to keep up with that.
Yeah. And there's issues, right? I'm sure in Southern California,
they're going to double again,
much
right?
denser.
They're going to double again this year.
Yeah. No, that's true. There's definitely issues, but there's a more aggregate way to measure these things and understand what kind of issue that they are. I'm not saying there's not an issue. Quickly on BYD, when you're at 2% operating margins, and I've studied this very in-depthly, and I do a lot of work in this space, it's very hard to grow your way into 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14% operating margin by doing what you've been doing and just growing volume. And until we hear from BYD, like, what are they doing fundamentally differently in terms of simplification, in terms of design, in terms of their manufacturing footprint basically transform their cost structure. What Tesla did is, instead of having the shiny reveal of the car and then not giving you any of the details of how they're going to get there, they did the ugly presentation of like, here are all the components that are needed to actually get to that point, and we're not going to do the reveal till we're ready. BYD hasn't done that for us, so it'll be interesting to see if they actually transform how they design and manufacture a car. Then they do have a great opportunity to get to 8%, 10% operating margins. But until they do that,
what's happening right now? I mean, you think the Chinese aren't like learning from Tesla?
No, I think they are, but they're operating at 2% operating margins.
Right, but I think they're going to incorporate what they're learning in Tesla very rapidly into their manufacturing processes, as they've done with everything they've ever done. That's why Tesla's allowed to be in China. Okay, it's not because they like Elon.
Right, they're going to copy what Tesla's doing on the 2017 and 2020 designed Model Y. Tesla's showing you what they're going to produce in 2026 and how they're going to get there. So they're going to be a bit behind, and Tesla's going to work on generation 4. So it's going to be, I do believe that the Chinese are going to be kind of number 2 in EVs for some period of time. I think there's no question about that.
I agree.
But I just want to make the point on BYD and others that you can't just grow your way out of an operating margin. They have significant volumes. They produced almost 1 million vehicles in that segment. So I don't think they're going to grow. I think they have to fundamentally change what they're doing. Final thing is, the reason why BYD will have a good solid chance is they produce their own battery cells.
That's right.
And do their own battery packs. Other companies besides, hopefully Tesla will be in the future and using them, right, which they are starting to do right now. Tesla and BYD will have that advantage, where other companies have to go buy that battery, that pack, and that cell and pay them a margin. Even the Ford cattle deal, they've got to pay them a royalty. They've got to pay them a margin. They're not getting batteries at the best cost possible. So I do think that the Chinese can be number 2, but they've got to do something fundamentally differently to surpass Tesla.
Which also reinforces my belief that 4680 is fundamentally the most important thing that Tesla's working. Obviously full self-driving too, but like that mode of that tech will propel Tesla into a whole nother level over the next decade or 5 years, and so what I think is that making batteries isn't going to be as hard or expensive as time goes on, just because everybody's trying to do it now. And I know like all these companies going into batteries and battery tech and all these really great ex-Tesla people that are making batteries for competitors and so on and so forth. But what the Chinese do, and they do so well, is they learn. Okay. They learn
by copying. Yeah. But I mean, that's all good. But why we are
copying the greatest is how you get good at stuff. And so like Tesla's there with the best facility ever. And what happens is that guy leaves Tesla and he goes to BYD, and the other guy leaves Tesla and he goes to NIO. And I talk to these Chinese companies and people, and they are very smart and they are hardworking, and they will go to any length to compete. And they are 50% of the cars that are sold in the world are in China. And so this is a crucially important market for Tesla, but the good and the bad of them being in Shanghai is they're in a way helping their competitors, which was kind of why they're allowed to do this. But at the same respect, they're getting access to this great market. But I think what you're seeing is something playing out there that will ultimately be a global battle. And I'm not saying Tesla isn't going to win. And I think, this is where I think maybe you're not understanding where I'm coming from. Being critical does not mean I don't believe that Tesla will win. Okay. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is these are the things we have to worry about. And as an investor and as just a fan or a supporter of Tesla, and my biggest gripe is the fact that I think the CEO should be 100% focused on this.
Okay. Well, that's a good thing that you came there, because that is just, we had this point before, right? On the same platform. So why do you think Elon should be there? Wasn't this presentation of these 16 executives who showed really earth-breaking how the industry has to change? I mean, everyone in his own segment showed so much more progress than anything we've seen from anybody else. And now you tell us Elon has to be there full time, yet the last 6 months, obviously they put that presentation together and everything looks as perfect as can be. So what was missing? What's the one thing that, I mean, is it, let me get a little bit meaner. Is it because you don't want him at Twitter that you want him back at Tesla?
No, I mean, obviously, he really enjoys this crack that he's on at Twitter.
And you hate it, right? And you hate
well,
it.
I mean, somebody just sent me this tweet. What did he just say today? Somebody just sent me this tweet he just did. What did he say? He said, and the tweet said, another day and another event of Elon being a shitty human being again. And it was something to do with this person, Hallie, somebody with a disability that he fired or something. I don't know. But like, if he owned Twitter and he wasn't tweeting, you know, it'd be not as bad. Okay?
So exactly, that's where I want to get. That's one thing. I really feel you're so emotional and so much turning your opinions because you're so annoyed that Elon is not a full-blood Democrat anymore.
No,
I think that is it. Yes, it is. Yes, it is, Ross. It is.
I'll tell you what it was. This is the truth. Monday morning, I start our meeting, okay? And the discussion comes up from our advisors. We have, let's say, 1,000 clients with Teslas, okay? The advisors say, we're getting calls from clients. What's the call? We want to sell our Tesla stock. We hate Elon. What do we do? And I said, really? We're getting that many calls? Yes, we're all getting calls. They want to sell their Tesla stock. They hate Elon, okay? I said, listen, we own Blackstone. Okay, Steve Schwartzman is a horrible human being. Way worse than Elon. And should we analyze all 40 companies and look at most of the CEOs keep their mouth shut. They go, no, Ross, that's not true. Most of these CEOs aren't so bad. And Elon constantly is doing stuff that's pissing people off. So what do we do? And I said, well, you have to explain to him we own a company and the company this and that. And I understand that he might say things that offend you, but you know, it's also your financial future. And, you know, and so we literally have a script now how to deal with Elon objections. Okay, that's my world with thousands of clients that own Tesla and in California. Now, my personal political beliefs don't have to agree with anybody. In fact, I actually really enjoy healthy political debate, which doesn't happen anymore. But I am
It's coming back on Twitter. Thanks to Elon, we're getting that debate back. Oh, come on, Ross.
It's the far.
It's so much better now. It's so much better.
It's not healthy. And we haven't even started the election yet.
Well, it is healthy if you want the political debate. We didn't have it when the San Francisco liberals were running it, and they were cutting all the right-wingers off, and now we have it.
Sure. They were.
I'm not trying to make it political. What I'm saying is Elon did a Twitter panel today, and he talked about that he wants the left and the right to be on a level playing field and that we can engage. And that is what free speech is about. So if you say something and I don't like it, what Elon was saying is that means we have free speech. And if I say something and you don't like it, but you still have to hear it, or maybe you want to block it, that's fine. But I'm allowed to say it without worried about being kicked off the platform. That's important for our country, Ross. Come on. As someone like you just said you don't care about people's politics. You have to admit that Twitter was one-sided, and Elon, this is not political. I'm just stating a fact. Elon has brought it back to the middle where we could have a discussion where people could express themselves legally with respect and not be worried about throwing off the platform. Do you disagree with that?
Well, Christian, I am not a fan of Jack Dorsey. Okay. I had friends who worked at Twitter, and I knew exactly the bullshit that was going on at Twitter that clearly Elon didn't know. He had the whole Twitter's files. Well, this is all well known. Okay. All this bullshit has been going on for years, you know? So remember when Elon bought Twitter, I supported it and I invested in it. I personally.
Exactly. Do you think he's moved it to be more equitable for everyone? I'm just trying to get a yes or no out of you. Or do you think it's still a mess?
Intent is great. And if he wasn't the moderator of all debate on Twitter, that would probably be a better way for it to be.
I agree with you there. I think Elon's moved it, and now I think he needs to let his people make sure it stays that way. Yeah.
And I think if you read the testimony from Rupert Murdoch about Fox News during the attempt to overthrow our democracy, the fact that Rupert Murdoch was perfectly fine leading the charge to overthrow our democracy and personally intervene against reporting that was accurate, it's extremely distressful. And I think the right wing and the left wing work very hard to manipulate the media. I don't think one or the other is innocent. I think Chris Rock said it, all Republicans are liars and all Democrats omit part of the truth, and I was like, yeah, that's the fact. And I personally think our political system in our country, has many issues, and one of which is we need much more young people and all kinds of things. But nothing that he's done at Twitter per se, conceptually, I have any issue with, like at all. I think for me, it's what he's saying. It's like what he says, and his EQ of understanding the way he says things and the way it reverberates is not very accurate. And so what happens is, I think a lot is some of the things he says are just misconstrued. Some of the things he says, I think, are a little bit tongue in cheek and get misconstrued. Like he posted that picture of the woman hugging the bear the other day, and the bear's holding the girl's butt, and it's this whole thing. And, it's kind of funny, but it's also sexist.
Yeah, but let's not go there a second. I mean, me and you kind of agreed on this. Fair enough, but let's just stick with the pop. Don't you agree? Don't you agree? I was with you, Ross, a few months ago when Elon was very political, and I was very, I had I said, it's not about agreeing. I said, we don't need that from our CEO, right, to make political enemies unnecessarily. Right. Don't you believe, as I believe this, I want to get, if you believe it, I believe he has toned down that rhetoric as far as it comes to the politics. He's been much more subdued. You don't feel that way over where it was?
Well, I heard some things about what happened with Elon and some of his friends and family. And I don't know if
I'm sure
true, but as you know, his history of being with lots of women who tend to be extremely liberal. Okay. And Grimes, probably one of the most liberal people you could imagine. Okay. Elon has a long history of being liberal, actually, more Democrat than Republican.
Yeah, I think he's voted Democrat forever.
Yeah, right. In fact, Elon and I have had almost a similar political sort of belief system. I thought most of the time I've been around, like I actually don't disagree with a lot of the things he says in theory. It doesn't even really bother me that much, some of the political things he says. It's the things when you're talking about, gays or transsexuals, or when you're talking about sexual harassment, or all these like really complicated and how would I say, difficult issues, painful issues, ones you really have to be careful about. And you can say, oh, it's the woke movement, this and that, but I'll say this, okay? There's a lot of different people in the world, and we have to respect them all. I don't care. I don't think.
And I think we can agree with you on that one. But why were you so upset? Why were you so upset when he was at the Super Bowl with Rupert Murdoch? Because there you really freaked out. What happened there?
Oh, he is the worst human being on earth, Alexandra. He's a disaster to society, and he's literally sitting with this guy in the Super Bowl, and I'm like, what conversation is going on here? Is he trying to sell Twitter? Is he trying to sell advertising, trying to learn how to sell advertising, plotting the destruction of the Democratic Party? Like, what would
there we go.
What Rupert Murdoch and him have to talk about? Elon can certainly get tickets for the game, right? So, like, why would he, like,
But Ross, I think this is what Alexander's trying to point out. You're very emotional with this stuff, and sometimes it's your number one holding. So that's what I was trying to get at you. You're not really answering me.
I own Tesla.
It bothers. No, I'm saying it bothers you. I can hear it in your voice, and you're entitled to that. How do you reconcile that being your number one position? Elon Musk runs the company of your number one position. You can't get around that. How do you do that? What I asked before, I don't think you really asked. Why would you not say, hey, some of this I can't take. I got client. What would it take for you? And I don't want you to do this. I'm asking you as a fund manager of your ETF. Would you ever make it a number 3 position or a 4 position or 5 position because of some of these things? That's all.
No. This is not how you invest money. Okay.
I agree, but you sound very emotional. It bothers you. I don't think I could get up every day. Wait, hold on. I just want to finish this real quick.
Right.
I don't think I could get up every day out of bed and own a company in size like you do and hate, the politics of that person. It would be impossible for me to own that thing. I would be daily upset. Every day I would wake up and say, why do I own this company? He's pissing me off every day, and I own a shit ton of it. I got to unload some of this because I don't want it. I'm saying, I'm being legitimate here.
Christian, I'm in the money-making business, okay? That's my job. My job is
I agree with you.
There's nothing more or less to my job than that. Now, I try not to assign too much morality to all these investments. Now, there are certain things I won't invest in, like guns, but I invest in defense companies, okay? I won't invest in tobacco, but I invest in gambling companies and cannabis. I don't like DuPont and chemical companies or railroads or, for example, oil companies. I won't own oil companies. It hurt me last year. It hurt me bad not owning oil. I knew oil was in natural gas would be a great investment last year. Who wouldn't know that? And I literally got...
Yeah, but that's just going against what you just said. You said you're in the money-making business. Right. If you think they're going to make you a lot of money, go buy it.
That I follow. I will not invest in an oil company. I don't...
Fair enough. I got you.
I don't care.
But that could be the same thing with Elon. You could say, I hate Elon and Rupert Murdoch. I hate... And he's sitting next to him. You can make that morality saying, I can't make Tesla my number one position because Elon Musk and Rupert Murdoch are big friends.
No. I don't think they're friends at all.
Well, whatever.
Okay,
yeah.
James
Murdoch
is on the board of directors of Tesla. James Murdoch has been shunned by his family. There's a show called Succession, and it's about them. Okay, and James is the black sheep of the family. He is the Harry of the royal family. Okay, and now I'm sitting here. Elon is hanging out with his sister and dad, and James isn't there. Anybody see James at the Super Bowl? No. So the whole thing is weird. You don't find that weird?
I don't care.
Exactly. Couldn't care less.
I don't care at all.
Right. Okay. So I think the optics are bad. Like, why don't you just sit with somebody else? I don't know what he's trying to achieve.
Another question. While we're on Santa Barbara, because you brought up Harry, you have engaged the last few days with Dan O'Dell, the Green Hill software guy who wants to prove that FSD doesn't work. Sorry, what did you say? Say that again.
I thought I was defending you from him. I only engaged you guys engaged him.
Well, thank you very much that you jumped in because I don't want to.
Because you and him were having this fight. I was backing you.
Thank you very much.
Ross, you are offering to go there to do the FSD beta ride with him, and you already know that he is very biased. You know that he's going to do everything he can to make FSD look bad. He is the competing CEO. He's going to lose $1 billion, and it's very clear he spent millions of dollars. You are not necessarily the best person to do an FSD beta drive. I'd much rather have Chuck obviously be doing that, but you are offering yourself, and I'm a little worried about that. That's, I just wish he didn't do that.
I took on Carson Black. I took on Chanos. I even go on against Gordon Johnson all the time, even though I don't want to. I think
do you realize how cheeky he could be? Because the thing is, he's technically quite advanced. I mean, I'm not saying he can do anything FSD, but if he can, put certain paint on those puppets or whatever he's using, he will try to be smart. He will try to be not on public roads where it works the way it is.
Maybe I got him into a little trap. Maybe I got him into a trap. Well, now if you want,
so you really want to do, it, right?
No. Maybe this could be a huge win. Why are you guys so scared? Full self
because you're over. Yeah, I know. It's just that you are not the expert in FSD. There's lots of little things like Alexander's pointing out that is very, very careful.
Send me an expert in FSD. I'll bring
Chuck
anybody.
Cook is, I'd say, the expert in FSD. Let him do this test and let him decide. Please don't be just coming out there just
They said I can do whatever I want. I can bring whoever I want. I can do whatever I want.
Do you have a date? Is this happening? No, it's not. Okay.
I don't have a date, but they were working on that. There's some other issues like whether Tesla wants me to do this. Because I don't want to do anything.
I think that's where we're going. I think the gist of it, Ross, is we just don't want something to happen that would make the company look good because this guy is not. I know,
He's
that,
not
but
a
I'm saying
straight shooter.
be cognizant of it. That's all.
I'm the guy who knew FTX was a crook way before anybody else. Okay, listen, I live in
I don't
LA.
think we should even associate with this guy. This guy is bad news. I don't know why we got to prove anything to him or do anything to him. We could he's irrelevant. Every time we talk about him, we're giving him more press.
Company. Okay, he's spending a lot of time and money hurting our company.
Well, we should fight back with him, like with Elon saying, a killer law team to go after him if he's making claims that aren't true. We don't need to engage with him. We don't need to.
There's no killer law team at Tesla that shut him down, and they ran Super Bowl ads that were bullshit. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm not cool with it. Okay, so the fact that he's taking the risk to mess with me, like maybe you guys just don't give me enough credit. Okay, maybe I've got this guy playing a test game. Now, granted, I'm not underestimating the enemy. I'm not underestimating the enemy.
He is nasty. He really is, Ross. He's a nasty guy.
I've already done my research. He's a very smart and successful guy. Okay, I've done my research.
Ross, Ross, the issue is this. Okay, Daniel Clown, Daniel Dowd
at all. Okay, you send me all the help I need. Okay,
Daniel Dowd is not a threat. He has nothing to show, and so you, as Tesla being the best technology in the world, there's no need to even entertain him and just ignore that out of the way. But the other thing about I just
prove him wrong.
No, you don't need to prove him wrong. He's nobody. Nothing he's ever done has gone anywhere, and we are proving him wrong by the millions of videos we're doing already today. There's no need to go to his neighborhood to have his test. Just ignore that and let it go. I mean, we're going to show our own videos. But I think that so. Number one,
confidence in the software. That's my mistake.
I do too. We do too. But that's what we're saying is that
I don't think
he's going to rig it.
Or a dog.
Every video he's ever done has been rigged. We already know that. So don't let that happen.
Like, there's been no examples of full self-driving killing anybody. There's been, I haven't seen any proof that of the 400,000 cars that are enabled, we've seen accidents. Correct. We haven't seen injuries. We haven't seen anything, because if anything happened, the New York Times and everybody would be there. Okay.
Can I just want to make a point though. Okay. Cause this is perfect how it kind of all comes together again. Okay. Ross, you are one of the best, I will tell you, the best advocate for Tesla. You've been on TV every single day. Your opinion makes people view Tesla a little bit bigger and stronger. So then when you say, hey, but I can insult Tesla, right? Not insult, but like point out and criticize, because that's fair. That's absolutely true. But when it comes from somebody like you saying that, it makes it sound like this must be so bad that somebody who is very much into Tesla is now pointing it out. It must be such a big issue. And here we are when you say that. I'm not saying you cannot say negative things. You as a representative for Tesla need to be careful, because when you say stuff, now people just go, look, here's the bull who really thinks that Tesla has terrible FSD, has competition that's absolutely out there about to knock them out. They're ceding the premium, which I don't believe at all in any way. I think it's a perfect strategy of what Tesla's doing. And it just makes people question business model, because you've been such a big bull for so long.
So Herbert, I appreciate that. I don't work for Tesla. I work for my clients, and I'm an investor in Tesla. And I'm an activist investor, which means when companies are doing stuff that I think can do better, I say something about it. Now, one thing that is true that I have to deal with one way or another is now everybody blows up everything I say and do. Okay. That's the media. That's Twitter. Oh, Ross sold 300 shares of Tesla. He hates Tesla. I mean, it's such bullshit. Okay. And it's like, I get it, because everybody wants a story and everybody wants to talk. And I started. I'm certainly is guilty. Like, I'm not one of these like, oh, I'm a victim of the media. No, I am, I do provoke conversations and I do provoke thought. That's part of it. I am provoking these things for a reason. This is how we get better. Okay. And if we don't challenge the status quo, we won't be as good as we could be. That's the fact. Now, that's why I'm on your show right now, is because I think I want people to understand my viewpoint. They can watch this show. I love Tesla, the company. I was just there for literally, it felt like 12 straight hours of just factory tour, looking at everything, learning from everybody I could. You know, I'm not a chemistry guy, you know, like I got an A in chemistry in high school, but this is not what I want to, you know, I'm an entertainment guy. I would much rather be at a concert or whatever than be in a factory. But like, what I've learned is incredible what Tesla is doing. And I still absolutely believe this is the most consequential company in the stock market today. And I think there's a lot of other good stocks too. And Tesla being the first or the second or whatever, it's a massive weighting in our investment portfolio for our clients. Okay. And when the volatility gets real bad, it's real hard on the people who rely on me. You know what I mean? And so I want to see Tesla be successful. Trust me, I have huge incentive, you know, to see Tesla be successful. And that's why I prod where I prod. Now, Dan Loeb does this. Nelson Peltz does this. Carl Icahn does this. This is not some new thing that investors and companies prod management to be better. This is not. Okay. And I think the board of directors in Tesla is bought and paid for. Now, one of the things Alexandra brought up that concerns me from the presentation was one of the things I wasn't convinced about with management was if Elon got off the train in San Francisco and some homeless guy killed him, and all of a sudden Tesla now has 16 heads. Who's the head of the heads?
Drew? No, didn't you think Drew or Zach was the what were more prominent ones?
I mean, I don't think they could run all those other guys. I would rather maybe have Tom do that. Like,
yeah, Tom would be great.
Yeah,
you know, like, but I don't think that's clear. They didn't clear. What was clear to me is he has a great team. He has a great team, but he is the quarterback of the team still, and there is no second stringer.
But Ross, I mean, you've been on many boards. You know a lot of companies. My understanding would be that, you know, I'm the CEO of the company. I've been the CEO of small, tiny little companies. You don't necessarily have to say, this is my second in command and articulate it to everybody. What you do is, I've got lots of incredible bench here. Now, the board would know who your succession plan is, but you don't need to articulate that and make it public. When it happens, if it happens, then they'll go, this is the plan. We already know who's going to be up next. You never know what's going to happen next month, 5 months from now, 6 months from now. You don't release your hands 5 years before something might happen. You just kind of say, hey, anybody here can take over, and they're amazing.
Well, with public companies of this size, it's actually quite common to know what the succession plan is. And you see it often in these changes in management, whether it be like Netflix or Disney, for example, which was recent. And I think Netflix was like a perfect example of how do you know, get a guy out who wants to get out, and, you know, Reed's retired and they did a wonderful job in the transition.
But that's not true, Ross. Disney was a mess. Disney had to go beg Bob Iger, a 70-year-old, to come back because they had no plan. Please come back.
No, Bob Iger had.
He didn't want to do it. He retired.
The board of Disney had a plan.
Yeah, they called him up and said, "Come back, please."
Right, which was
exactly what
needed to happen because Chapek sucked. So the board.
I agree with you, but it wasn't a plan. It was like a desperation. I hope he says yes.
Well, no, there's more to it than that. That's okay. So Iger retired, okay, and Chapek was just destroying the company. But Iger, you can say he's a 70-year-old. He's in phenomenal shape. Okay, he's in better shape than Elon. So Iger could kick Elon's butt in a bike race for sure. Okay, and so he's sitting at home and he's watching Biden, who's 106, you know, solving nuclear wars, and you know, he's like, what am I doing here? Chapek's making bad movies and putting them, you know.
I agree with you, Ross, but I watched the interview with Iger. It was an hour long. It was on CNBC. It was a fascinating interview, and I listened to every word he said. He did not want to come back. He said, I got a call. Management wanted me to come back for, you know, he's going to stay there for maybe a year. They want him.
You don't remember?
And he said he didn't want to do it, but he felt loyal because he was a Disney guy. He loves the company, and he came back. I don't know that you could say it was a great plan.
I know, Iger. I know. Yeah. Okay.
But he didn't want to. Then you know he didn't want to come back unless he's lying on the interview. Unless he's lying, he said, "I did not want to come back."
It's politics, my man. You know.
Okay. All right.
Disney has a long history of the guys don't want to leave, you know? And I think he really did want to retire, but it's really hard to be retired and be in great shape and be so successful and watch your company being run into the ground. And he came back, and I think he might probably stay longer than 2 years. And I hope, you know, maybe they find a better plan, and I know who would be a better plan. But there's a lot of politics in running Disney, boy. You know,
no, I agree. I was just making that as an example, so we don't have to make this a Disney show. But yeah, go ahead, Herbert.
I don't think Tesla would collapse if Elon died. I don't. I think that the people running Tesla are very competent. I just don't think Tesla's far enough along with the technology. Like, I think it's something in the next few years they'll get over this hump. 4680, full self-driving in trucks, and once they get over that hump, I think. I mean this well. Elon will be less a crucial key to its success because it will have solved, I think, these next level problems. But I'm just really concerned on the short term, and you know, so I especially like this year, like it's such a big year for Tesla. You know, honestly, it just is, and it's one of those transition years where, if they get this all right this year, like Tesla puts the moat up, protects themselves against the competition, like vastly expands their technological advantages, and comes out with new product lines that will drive sales into 24 and 25. So to me, this is like one of those transition years where, like, you just got to win, you know, you just got to win. And that's really why I'm pushing so hard more than anything else, because I know these competitors are behind. I don't disagree with what you're saying, Christian. Like, but it's also, I just think it's narrow-minded to think they'll never catch up. I just do. And like, you know, so if we're here and we have the opportunity to get here, you know what I mean? Like, we don't want to lose that opportunity because we're playing around with Twitter, do we? I mean, so I think, I pray that we solve these issues. You know, I think there's a huge opportunity, and then all these numbers go back up on Tesla, right? So then you can mark up your earnings estimates again, and then you see your stock price moving again. And if we want to get to 300, we got to get to $6. You know, they're saying 24, they might do $5.50. You know, I think in 24 they can easily break $6 or $7 if they manage their business right. And then you've got a stock going back to new highs in the next 2 years. And so it's like, it's an inflection point, I guess is really the term. It's an inflection point for Tesla, and it's a crucially important year. That's where I'm coming from. That's why I think it takes 100% focus. These are amazing technological innovations, like amazing. And I just don't think they're easy. I like watched it with my own eyes. Like, I'm like, this is genius. If they can do this, it's genius, you know, but I have to do it.
You're saying if they do this, but has Tesla not proven that this is the game-changing company that says what they're going to do and does it? And they revealed a bunch of items that they showed us, but what did they not reveal? So it seems like their path to 20 million cars is already figured out. There's new products that have been unveiled. And with all due respect, it seems like you've been accused of like drinking too much Kool-Aid, and it's very obvious, especially after today, that you're looking at all the threats, you're analyzing, to make sure that they deliver on their promises, and I just think that I watched the presentation, and the entire media, and even the community didn't comprehend what.
They hated
what
it.
Tesla
People hated it.
They hated it. So how did you like? What is your?
Why did I love it?
Yeah, why did you love it?
You know, it's funny because when you're there, it's really different than when you watch stuff on TV, and especially after I had finished this tour of the factory. You know, so the context of it for me was a little bit different than for a viewer, because I just spent I think it was almost 2 hours, walking through this facility that a year ago was basically empty. You know what I mean? And they don't let you take pictures, and, so it's hard to describe. So then when you watch the presentation and you see there's certain slides about the wiring, this is what makes building an EV really hard, is actually the wiring thing. And that's what holds back all these companies like Lucid, is software and wiring. And they talk about like how important it is to simplify wiring and all the points and the way all that works. You know, it's highly complex, but a huge moat for Tesla, which has caused huge problems for the competitors because they're building cars and they're not building technology pieces that move, you know? And then like stamping processes, manufacturing processes, you know, once again, this is really boring stuff. If you go to like college and you're like, I'm going to take like mechanical engineering, I'm going to take like wiring and electricity. That was not what I studied. You know what I mean? I went to COM and Wharton. You know, I was like, you know, I'm not going to engineering school. I'd rather get hit by a truck, you know? So it is engineering school. So the stuff fascinates me, but I don't try to pretend that I'm going to all of a sudden be some engineer and understand all this. So a lot of it is trust, but I also have eyes, you know, and I see things and I'm like, wow. Like,
so Ross, we spent the whole show talking about all these drama issues around the edges, but you know, I'm a numbers guy and I'm looking at what Tesla's presenting, and is this just not like, why are we talking about all of this stuff when we should be talking about what the gross margins are and you know, what if you're looking at the short term, which I understand.
So Xander, one of the things that I've learned at Tesla is nothing that they say happens when they think it's going to happen, and that's okay. It's okay. Like I think, you know, they get a lot of criticism because they'll say, oh, the Cybertruck was supposed to come out 2 years ago and it's still not out, you know, but I'm on the other hand, I'm like, do you see what they're trying to do? You know, it's like, come on, give them a break.
Yeah. Model Y. Yeah.
So I think their vision and their presentation is great, you know, like, but it's just a presentation, it's a piece of paper. Okay. And execution, once again, when my company personally was small, it was like so much easier. And now I got 50 people and I got all these people that want this and all these people want that. And it gets bigger and bigger. If I go to 100 people, you know, I'm like trying to figure out how to scale, you know what I mean? And I have to deal with humans, not robots, you know, and we manage humans. So it's like, oh my God, you know, managing humans who manage humans and scale. Whoa, that's fun. You know, like Elon to take my challenge on, you know, robots can't help you. And so like, when I look at from an engineering perspective, one of the things that would like that whole presentation said to me is that, like, for example, Tesla's 100% self-sufficient. They build everything for themselves. Like they don't outsource. They don't rely on people who aren't reliable. Like you look at a company like Fisker that says they're going to do 40,000 cars with Magna this year. And I'm like, yeah, right. You know, Magna's never made 40,000 EVs in a 6-month period, you know, and I hope they're successful, but you know, like, I'm like, these are not easy to build. And I'm watching how these Tesla's building, and I'm sure Magna's not building them this way. You know what I mean? And I think the scale of his vision is what is so exciting about Tesla, and what I think Elon has that most CEOs don't have is the risk-taking ability to see a massive vision, to invest in that massive vision, knowing what he wants to achieve, irrelevant of the enormous capital costs and theoretically risk, but then putting the company in such a dominant position. That's what they've done now and what they're trying to do moving forward, you know? And I think that's all great, but I also think it's really hard, and it's harder now than it was before because they already are so big, you know, from, let's say, like 1.8 or 2 million cars to, let's say, 4 million cars isn't the same as going from, like, say, 100,000 cars to 500,000 cars, you know?
Sure.
So,
and I have a question for you, Ross. So if I sum it up, your main criticism is he's not a full-time CEO. They don't do ads.
CEO, not at Tesla.
Yeah, he's not a full-time CEO at Tesla. They're not doing ads, and their service has to improve, right? Those were the 3 main points on which you still. So none of this will happen, right? Because as you said at the beginning, this is an Elon-centered company, and that's how he runs the show. He said today in the call today again that, you know, Twitter still needs his attention for a couple of months. So nothing of this is going to happen. So you're going to go on for the next couple of months ruminating about this and
Nope.
just hoping
Nope.
that somebody hears
No,
you?
that's not what I'm going to do
what's
at all. That's not what I'm going to do at all. In fact, number one, I think Tesla made a very big effort to make me happy about their management team, and I was happy with the management team. I was happy with the people I met. I was happy that they put them out front. I think they deserve the attention. I think putting a bunch of engineers up in front of 1 million people and say entertain everybody is a really tough task, you know? Like if they want to be entertained, they can watch me, you know, but like you don't ask 16 engineers to do a presentation and try to entertain people. It just is impossible, actually. You think about a party. Do you invite 16 engineers to a party and say, let's party? I mean,
It's not an
They
it's
were
not a party. It's not
entertaining, though.
entertainment.
It's
Yeah,
not
it
entertainment.
wasn't
It's not supposed
entertainment.
to be entertainment. I'm entertainment. That's what I do. You know what I mean? So it's like, why expect something from people they're not? So they actually did a great job in my mind. That's why I said that presentation was great. If you want entertainment, watch Herbert Show. You know, Mark Ryan. I mean, Stephen Mark Ryan's great entertainment.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
like all you guys are great entertainment.
Smart.
You know, and so it's like that's where we serve. You know, but I was there to learn, and what I learned was great. I was very happy with that, and I was very excited that they made such an effort to introduce the world to Tom and not just Drew and Zach, you know, but like all these guys that put in like their lives into this company. You know what I mean? Because it's not a regular job. So
But
that
wasn't the purpose. That's not the purpose. The purpose is to vision cast a path to what you want, which is sustainability.
yeah, I get that, but I already saw that path. You know, like I see
But
the
future investors haven't, right? But future investors haven't.
But see, you know, once again, I can say this is what we need to do to serve every client in the United States for GK, and here's the path to doing it. And I just need to hire another 1,000 people. So,
But I mean, cutting costs by half is a revolution, Roger.
Right.
I mean, nobody can do that.
Several things happening. You see what I'm saying? And it's 4680. It's called 4680. So 4680 shrinks the battery manufacturing size by like 50 or 60%. This is a huge innovation. Once again, I saw where they're making them. Okay. And when I got there, I was like, where's the rest of because when I saw the original cell prototype factory in Fremont, it was like, it looked like Laverne and Shirley, where they're like making the beers and the beers come down and the cans come down. And actually one of the guys who runs making these things used to work making beer cans, you know, because they're like beer cans. And then I looked at what they have done now. Okay. And it's nothing like that prototype. And they've shrunk this foot down, and they showed it in one of the slides, the old 2170. And then they showed where 4680, but I go, where's the rest of the manufacturing for 4680? They go, this is it. And I go, whoa. This little area is the whole area for, and they're like, yeah, that's part of the innovation is we don't need as much space. It's way easier to manufacture. We have way like better cells, and the footprint is way smaller. I said, if it's this fucking small, we could put these everywhere. And they're like, yes. And I was like, dude, this is it. We got to get 4680 because then we can open up gigafactories like everywhere because the footprint.
That's what they're doing in Nevada. Exactly. That's why they're making Nevada.
You know, and I'm like, is this going to work? And they're like, well, we can't tell you. And then like, you know, like you can see the stuff that's getting thrown away, you know, like, and it's a lot of stuff, you know, like they're still working hard at this stuff. Like, you know, and I don't say that in a bad way, you know, it's like one of the biggest innovations of modern history in my mind, but it's like, once again, I don't think any of this stuff is easy. And that's kind of where I'm coming from. So, you know, I think the future is great, but like, I think you're asking what they solved. They solved my confusion about management. I think there's very competent people running Tesla. And if Elon puts 15 or 20% of his time into it, I'm sure all the people are implementing as good as they could implement, you know? I do think there are going to be hiccups this year. And I think if you don't understand this, you have not been a long-term investor in Tesla, because there has never been a time that things went smooth. Okay. So that's fine. I'm fully ready for my hiccup ride, but to just expect a smooth entry into these three big things, I think is a little bit naive because I've done this for 8 years with them. Okay. But I think they'll achieve them all.
Good.
I don't know when. Number two, service. So Tesla said to me, and the people I've talked to, they very much agree with me. Okay. These are things they want to address. But unfortunately, it's not prioritized there. And as I said before, maybe service is good here and there, which is true. Okay. I personally have not had that many bad experiences with Tesla service. Okay. My wife would disagree and we argue. And I'm like, Jill, come on. And she's like, no, I don't like this. And I don't like that. And she's not wrong 100%, but, people have sometimes ridiculous expectations too. But you're going to double the footprint of the company. So you're going to sell 2 million cars this year. That's my goal. They sell 2 million cars. They have 2 million cars on the road or something. Now I got 4 million cars. And I got more customers. And I got more charging. And I got more service. Okay. And so it needs to be addressed. Now, I think they got that message. I don't. So basically it was like, Ross, maybe you can convince Elon, because we'll get fired if we push too hard, and that's an unfortunate reality,
I'd like to just add my comment, I guess. So let's go through your three things: is PR, service, and Elon being CEO full time, correct?
It's not just PR. It's having a team
to do proper communication. Okay, I guess my opinion,
lobbying.
Yeah, my opinion would be those are important, but they're like probably 10th, 11th, and 12th in the hit. And the more important thing, the most important thing you said was the 4680. We're talking about manufacturing expertise and technology, business model, and they're knocking this out of the park. And those things are, yes, that's great, but it's not gonna derail Tesla from succeeding, and they're already succeeding.
They can't sell.
What's that?
They can't sell full self-driving right now.
No, I don't agree with you there. I know you made that comment, but that's not what they're saying. They can't. They just paused offering it to new users because they got a service issue that they're trying to update. When they update that, it's back on again.
Teslas, and they have a choice to buy full self-driving. They can't do that. Okay, why? Because NHTSA.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, how much lobbying would I have to do to avoid that outcome? Okay, probably not much. Okay. Now, I know the way the world works. I deal in that world. It's really easy. Okay. I deal with the media. Okay. I can tell you 5 reporters right now from major newspapers that want to write great things about Tesla. They want to write great things about Tesla. They say, why can't I be, and I go, what, Martin, why can't there just be 5 pro Tesla reporters here? Like, what would be the downside? I know who they are. Al Root at Barron's loves Tesla. Okay. Why wouldn't you want this guy here? He's great.
What do you mean? Like as an employee or like a tour of the factory?
Why couldn't these guys go on the same thing I went on? 5 of them.
Okay.
I'll take them. You know what I mean? Like they would be so happy. Like Liz Clayman loves Tesla at Fox. She drives a Tesla and she's so hurt by the fact she even interviewed Elon early on when Tesla was growing, and like a glowing interview. And I've spent many times trying to talk Martin into letting her interview Elon or coming to the Cyber Rodeo or coming to a launch event. It would be nothing but positive on Fox all day, Fox Business all day. And it's just like they wanted to set up like a whole thing and do a whole coverage of the launch, Austin, and they can't even get a call back from somebody, And it's just, they're lost opportunities, really. And the cost of it adds up over time. And when you go onto like Apple News or you go onto like some aggregation site and you actually look at what's being printed about Tesla every day, it sucks. It bothers me. And I try to do every one of them to try, change the narrative. I can change the narrative myself. Imagine if they tried.
But Ross, like if they're unable to make any more cars at the time, is this really the time that we're trying to shift the focus on growing the brand or growing deliveries? If their manufacturing hasn't quite caught up to the demand yet, or maybe it's starting to reach equilibrium. But that's okay. I mean, if we don't know what the margins are yet. If the costs have come down,
when they were higher by 20%.
Right, but if they increase prices because the COGS were going up, and now the COGS have come down and they're decreasing prices, that's okay.
That's not what
Isn't
Elon
that,
said. Elon said COGS doesn't come down that quickly because everything's long-term contract, and that he expects COGS to come down in the second half of the year, but they've already locked in the prices for everything that they're building right now.
That's
So
what
you're
he
saying
said
they're
in October. That's what he said in October, right? And so now we're there, March.
No, it doesn't work like that. They have lithium contracts, they have metal contracts, a lot of it's metal, and it's all advanced contracts. So the COGS are coming down, and they will probably more substantially in the second half of the year. Probably a lot more thanks to Powell. But I mean, God, commodities dropped stone today.
Fair enough, Ross. I think what I hear you're saying, and I'm not saying you're wrong on this. I actually think, possibly could do that. It just seems like Elon refuses. What you're saying, you want to give Tesla a little bit of a softer image, right? Go on Fox Business, do an interview at 3:00 with Liz Klayman explaining Tesla and what we're doing. You're just trying to soften the company up. You're trying to get it some exposure. You're trying to get the CEO out there. I get what you're saying, and I know why you get a lot of pushback on that, because a lot of the Tesla community, they started a scrappy company. Elon's Elon. So I get it. So what you're saying, I'm not against what you're saying, but is that what you're trying to say? You wanted Tesla to be a little bit kinder and friendlier, open up a little bit more, go on CNBC, go on Fox, do some of those things. Is that, you're kind of saying that, right? You want them to open up a little bit.
What I'm saying is the way the media works is you give them a little access and you give them a few ad dollars, and it's
right. And they'll give you better coverage.
It's amazing how it changes.
Right.
It's amazing. Okay. And we're in the car sales business, remember, and I know that we can keep lowering prices and sell cars forever, and you can actually give away a product and everybody will buy it, right? So I understand economics, cost goes down, demand goes up, but that's actually why there's advertising in the first place. Why do companies advertise at all then? Okay, because you're able to create demand for a product. What they do is fulfill demand. So when you advertise, there are two types of advertising. There's advertising to fulfill demand, which is you put stuff on Twitter and people already know and they already want a Tesla. And then you create demand from customers that don't know anything about Tesla right now. And to just assume that consumers understand Tesla is completely incorrect. The average person has no idea of the value proposition of Tesla. Imagine if Tesla—
I agree with you with that. That is huge. I agree with you 100% on that, Ross, that there's a lot of people that do not know. Yeah.
You're buying a car, a nice car for this much. And with Tesla, I think I read you can buy a Tesla now for like $350 a month. Okay. Now I was like, holy crap. It's basically free. It's free because
you're buying or leasing. I think that's that.
It was lease or whatever. Whatever it was, I was like, but your gas is $200 a month. So if you're paying $350 a month and your gas is $200 a month, it's no brainer, right? But people don't get that, like, cost of operation, for example. And over 5 years, like, the Tesla cost of operation is so much less than a car that's even really more expensive, and people just don't understand this. People don't understand that charging is easy. There's chargers everywhere.
I think they understand it, but Elon clearly says PR is propaganda. I mean, said it again this morning.
That's right.
So you won't overcome it. And I mean, I agree with you. This is completely contrary.
That's the idea. But propaganda.
I think the better way to look at it, though, Alexandra, it's education. I'm not saying PR. Educate. The world does not know. I talk to a lot of people. I'm telling you for real. Nobody knows anything about Tesla. They don't know. I talked to my dad, and he's like, how am I going to charge? They have no clue. We think they know. I'm telling you, middle America, a lot of the country does not know these basic things. I'm telling you. In California, they know. They don't know out in the middle of the country. I'm telling you.
You're right.
So Ross, I agree with both of you. I charge my car with
a regular plug. I plug it into a regular plug at night. Okay, that's all it takes. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah, you don't need to spend $2,000 on a charger. It charges like your iPhone. I have my iPhone and my car plugged into the same plug. They go, oh my God, this is amazing.
Ross, I give that to you, but it won't change. So now what?
Well, So what I realized while I was there is that I have a fundamental disagreement with Elon over the value of advertising, and that I should be in charge of Twitter selling advertising instead of him. Because I could sell advertising all day long because it works.
And so you're going to work for Twitter?
I've decided to find my job as a financial advisor and work for Elon 24 hours a day, sleeping in some cruddy office on the floor.
I don't believe that a second.
Away from my children, away from my wife, so I can sell advertising for Elon and save Twitter. I've decided to do that.
Ross,
While you do that, I'll run Gerber Kawasaki while you go do that.
Ross, do I understand you correctly? You would rather Tesla pull a demand lever by marketing versus dropping the costs? I
think you try it. I think it wouldn't hurt them to try. So let's say you sell 2 million vehicles and you allocate $20 a vehicle to your ad campaign. It's $40 million. Okay. $20. That's all I'm saying. $20 a vehicle. You get $40 million ad campaign. You target major events that people watch, the masses watch. You have some of these great ads that people have done for Tesla. Like I started running these Tesla ad stuff and these kids made some great ads. They're not kids. These people made some great ads. And I was like, wow. Like so this is the worst part. So I'm sitting in the lobby of the Austin factory and they're running this video that's a great ad for Tesla. They do great videos at Tesla, actually. Yeah. Like we see them on Twitter, but like this video was like an A+ ad for Tesla. And I literally went to everybody and go, have you guys seen this video? And they're like, yeah, this video is amazing. I go, here's their ad. Like they already have it. Okay. So you hire a company and you pay them $20 million for an ad campaign and you just hit like major sports events, major event, like things that where you know you have maximum impact, not a huge campaign, not all over the place, just these few impactful ads. And what would happen was sales would spike. They would just spike. Okay. And so you don't have to lower your price. That's why you advertise. If that does not work, then you don't do it again. I just say try.
I said that yesterday in a space, so I don't disagree with you there. I said the same exact thing.
I think one of the big things in this area is just this discoverability of they have the safest vehicle from a body mechanics construction perspective. They will soon have the ability to avoid an accident. And how do you tell this story? It can't be just go to the website. We have statistics. You'll find it. It's all there. It's got to be out there a little bit more. So I think there's a lot of general agreement. It's more about, what do you do from here?
I realize it's like really hard. And so I was going to like try to put a presentation together that I'd send to Martin, who would send to Elon. But, after really listening to him, I think it's a tough nut to crack. Like he just fundamentally doesn't believe in it. And I think part of it is emotional. Like I think he's had a bad experience with the media. And so he doesn't want to spend money on it and he doesn't want to help anybody. And I think that's unfortunately colors a more rational decision-making. And then secondly, like Elon and I went to the same school at the same time. We lived 2 blocks away from each other. I talked to people in fraternities. I was in a fraternity at Penn, and a couple of people knew Elon while I was there. Elon was not a social person. Okay. He did not go out and party. My band used to play at a place called Smokey Joe's every Monday night in Penn. Still there, by the way. And I don't know if Elon ever saw me play. He probably missed it. I did this for years. Okay. I played Spring Fling, which is the biggest event at Penn, staged. All the kids are there. I bet you he wasn't there either. Okay. He was studying engineering. I would walk down the walk. Engineering school's on the right. Annenberg School of Communications on the left. Annenberg School of Communications, where I went, is the absolute best communication school in the country. Okay. I am happy to help Tesla. Okay. This is my skill set. So as much as Elon is brilliant at what he does, he did not study what I do. Okay. And I am trying to help them, but you have to be open-minded to the idea that maybe I don't know everything. Okay. And it's just, my stepfather's a nuclear engineer. He's one of the smartest people on earth. And we like have these arguments about diet and health. Okay. He's overweight. He's not that healthy. And he believes that every calorie is a calorie, whether it's cake or broccoli. And like, we're having this, argument. And I'm like, finally, I'm not arguing with you about this. Like, I will run you into the ground. Like, I'm in better shape than you've ever been in your entire life. I can tell you that broccoli is not the same as cake, and engineers are very smart people, but they have this, we all have this. We're all like this. We have intelligence in certain areas and we don't have intelligence in all areas. I have many weaknesses. Okay. And I try to offset those weaknesses like with people who are great at those things. Okay. And many of those people remind me of my weaknesses all the time, but he's a hard-headed guy, he's a driver, he's a super successful guy. He's an all-in guy. I get it. And it's hard to change his mind on these things.
I agree with you, but I wouldn't give out hope because I remember with the interview, I think it was with Silicon Valley, I don't know exactly, but I know he did an interview and he said, I might be open in the future to doing advertising. So he didn't rule it out completely. I remember him distinctly saying that. So for what it's worth.
Yeah, I also, again, just think that those are very good points, but they're not existential to the company. The company's doing an amazing job. I know you believe that as well, Ross. And so what you've said is very important.
But remember, I'm not thinking about today. It's not about
good point.
That's
a good point.
I know where we are today. It's I work with the competitors. I'm invested in one or two of them, I know what Rivian's doing. I know what these companies, I know the challenges they have, but I'm saying that we want to win in 5 years. That's how Tesla goes from 200 to 1,000. Okay. If it's going to do that over the next 5 years, we have to win like in every level. Like when you're a championship caliber team, I'll give you an example. LeBron James goes to the Lakers. He sucks. One of the best players of all time. Okay. Now, I can give you 5 reasons why I think LeBron isn't as good as, he should be. And one of the reasons is just simply success. He's won titles. He's been in cities. Now he gets to the Lakers. And if he loses, You don't see him crying. Now, I never saw this with Kobe Bryant. Okay. I watched Kobe Bryant play for a lot, and it didn't matter how pointless the game was or whatever. He would try to the last minute of the last second. And it was just all in every day. And that's what I'm saying is the minute you get complacent, you lose. And I just don't want to see Tesla get complacent, especially in a pivotal year. And I think they definitely made me feel good. I was very confident leaving there about the future, but I also know what they need to accomplish, especially over the next year. And if we do all these things, we're going to win the championship. Okay. But I feel like it's going to be hard, real hard. So that's where I'm coming from.
Ross, if I understand Elon at all, I think he would respond. He's very open to criticism from to make an improvement, but he wants to understand the why, right? He wants to understand numbers. So you mentioned making a presentation or something. I think if you attack Elon or I'm not saying that you are, but if you approach him with force, I don't think that's what would get
that's
the
why I
best
backed
result.
off on the board. That's why I backed off on the board.
Yeah. So I think it just creating you sold me on this idea of advertising, because in my head I went, oh, you know what, you're probably right. Why don't we try a little advertising before lowering the prices? That kind of makes sense. It can't hurt nor waste too much money. So
remember, we lost $6 billion
on
of earnings too. We lost $6 billion of earnings in the estimates, at least, from the lowering prices of the car. So, earnings estimates started the year at $6 for this year, and now it's $4. So, if you extrapolate out, it's $6 or $7 billion of lost profits based off this. Now, once again, I don't know if the analysts are right or not, but Gary works really hard, so I don't want to discount it. And so, he does all my Tesla numbers. He works really hard on this. So I don't want to bash him because, I'm hoping he's wrong. Right. And so that's my thing. If you're going to give up 6 billion or 7 billion in profits, in theory, what's 40 or 50 million to throw out in the wind and maybe sell a few cars? You know what I mean? I mean, that's how I do it too. Like I've tried different advertising things at my company and I can tell you what works on TV and I can tell you what works in billboards or newspaper or this or Twitter. I can tell you Twitter has a very low ROI, by the way. And, you know, it's like, I can tell you like why Twitter's ROI is low and how it could get better. You know, I could help them a lot at Twitter actually, but this is what I do. You know, I'm in the marketing business in a lot of ways. Like, you know, that's always how I've thought. I've always sold stuff. I'm good at selling stuff, you know.
Let's do final thoughts. Does anybody have any last questions or comments?
I'll go real fast. I thought this was, you know, a fun conversation. I think it was a good back and forth. I think we all come from the right spot and we all think a little differently and we all have, you know, different strengths and weaknesses. So I really appreciate Ross coming on and having the dialogue. I think, you know, that was great. You know, getting your point of view, hearing us, our point of views. I think it's healthy. And I think the more we do that, I think the better the future will be for humanity and for Tesla investors, understanding each other, where we're coming from. And, you know, we made a little progress here. And, you know, I take Ross's point, and I actually made the point yesterday before he made it today that, you know, maybe, you know, Tesla should do something like that. I don't think you should have a closed mind when it comes to anything, right? When you're in business, you're always trying different things. So I think it was a great conversation. Thank you, Herbert, Alexandra, Jeff, Xander, for all, you know, participating in it. And I thought it was fun. And yeah, it's great.
Yeah. And I want to thank you guys too. I mean, honestly, like I love the Tesla community and, you know, Alexandra could try to make me woke, even though she's so incorrect. It's embarrassing. That's fine. It doesn't mean I like Alexandra any less, you know. Yeah. I love the people involved with Tesla, even if they disagree with me, you know, and in fact, like the community is always great to me. So I have nothing to complain about. And once again, we like free speech, right? And these debates are really great because they're intelligent and they mean something. And it's not just like us arguing about bullshit. And I think the people involved with Tesla are highly intelligent. And I think people like Herbert have these great shows that I think a lot of people watch. And I do think the community around Tesla is super unique, like for any company I've ever been involved with. And, but I want it to be very clear to everybody that, you know, Tesla has been a huge part of my success recently. We've made a lot of money on Tesla over the last 8 years, and it really helped me and my company and me personally. You know, it's not just money, but seeing EVs be successful and like supporting the cause, and now seeing what's happening with the industry. It's like, it's amazing. Like once again, when you go around LA now and in Southern California, not just Teslas, because Teslas are everywhere, but like there's EVs everywhere. And that's the goal. That was Elon's goal. He's been successful at this. And I think that's what all of our goals are, is to see EV adoption, to see countries like Russia losing so much money because oil prices can't go up. And actually, United States gasoline usage went down again this year, actual usage. And there's many reasons, but EVs is the number one. And it's like, we're going to, not only is this great for like the environment and everything, it's great for neutralizing our enemies. And you see countries like Germany, like making this now rapid shift into, you know, alternative energy because they were so reliant on Russian energy and it was such a mistake. And we're rebalancing the power in the world in a lot of ways. So like, this is a fundamentally important cause. And I appreciate everybody involved with it. And I hope everybody understands that my goal is to see success for Tesla 100%. And I'm an investor and I'm not changing that. And if I make little shifts in my allocation, this is not something to be overanalyzed. I will tell you if I've decided that Tesla is not some great investment anymore. Trust me, I will tell you. But I look at a lot of stocks, okay? A lot of companies. And I think this is a wonderful opportunity for investors. It just is. Is it safe and unvolatile? No. But it's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity and one that I think after this last week, I'm as confident as ever in.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much, Ross. Thank you to the Bulls. Go ahead, Xander.
Just last thought is in 2014, Elon predicted or aspirationally to get to 500,000 vehicles. and now Elon and Tesla, of course, and now Tesla's striving for 20 million for 2030. They have, to me, proven that me going all in on Tesla is a wise decision, and Investor Day showed me that I'm not wrong so far. So I just want to close with that.
Nice.
Well, it's a big investment for, I think, all of us, but you should consider diversification too.
Okay. Well, we are all bulls, as we know, and this is a CyberBulls. So thank you, Ross. Thank you to the audience. Thank you so much for sticking with us and watching the show. If you like investing, you like Tesla, come again. Every Tuesday at 1 p.m., we have a show called CyberBulls. This is the bull panel. And as you can see, we don't always agree with each other, but we have a lot of fun. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Thank you again, Ross. You're amazing.
Thank
Love
you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Ross.
Yeah. Sorry, I was late.